Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello, welcome to Cannabis Common Sense. Right next to me, Mr. Eric Llewellyn is ready to co-host the show. You can see we have our main logo banner turned around still because we're under a court order from an Israeli-Canadian oil company and Multnomah County Court. They claim they bought the rights to the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, though they never paid a penny for it. You know, they just lie in court. So we are still fighting that battle. That explains that. Unfortunately, this evening, Mr. John Cornett and our musical accompaniment is out. He's recuperating from an illness. We hope to have him back next week. So get well quick, John. But we have Hemp News segment for you, some videos. Our phone lines are up. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, in about 10 minutes, you can call us at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. But we'll buy a few crucial seconds as we bring out our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first story tonight is from California. As many of you know, there are a lot of fatal fires in Northern California, and fatal fires consume nearly 200,000 acres in Northern California, devastating the region's vineyards, particularly in Napa and Sonoma counties. They're also taking a toll on the fledgling the marijuana industry just a month before its debut for recreational cannabis in the state of California. Many of the region's farms, including those that harvest cannabis, have been scorched, including those in Sonoma County and in Mendocino County, the center of California's marijuana industry. Mendocino is one of the 3 California counties that comprise the Emerald Triangle, where much of the United States marijuana is produced. Out of Washington, D.C., seizures of indoor and outdoor cannabis crops reported by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration rose in 2016, according to annual data compiled by the agency. According to the DEA's Domestic Cannabis Eradication Suppression Statistical Report, law enforcement confiscated more than 5.3 million marijuana plants nationwide in 2016. The total is a 20% increase over the agency's reported 2015 seizure totals, and it is the most plants seized by the DEA and cooperating agencies since 2011, when agents confiscated more than 6.7 million plants. As in past year, the DEA's eradication effort primarily targeted California. Of the total number of plants confiscated nationwide by the DEA and cooperating agencies in 2016, 71%, or 3.78 million, were seized in California. Law enforcement seized an estimated 552,000 plants in Kentucky, 333,000 plants in Texas, 128,000 in Tennessee, and 124,000 in West Virginia. Only 7% of all marijuana seized by law enforcement came from indoor marijuana grows. The Drug Enforcement Administration reported 5,657 arrests in conjunction with these cannabis eradication efforts, a 10% decline from 2015. The DEA also reported seizures of some $52 million in assets during their confiscation operations, nearly twice as much as the agency reported the prior year. Another story from California and Sacramento. Smoking and vaping will still be allowed in California's state parks and beaches, despite several lawmakers' attempts to ban it. California Governor Jerry Brown vetoed 2 bills last week that would have banned lighting up in a park or at the beach. In a veto message, he writes, quote, "If people can't smoke even on a deserted beach, where can they? There must be some limit to the coercive power of government," end quote, said California Governor Jerry Brown. One bill would have imposed a $100 fine for people caught smoking tobacco, marijuana, or even electronic cigarettes. Brown has vetoed a similar bill before. Out of Washington, D.C. again, the 85 words almost seemed an afterthought when Congress hurriedly crammed them into a massive budget bill late in the Obama administration, as if lawmakers wanted to acknowledge America's outlook on marijuana had changed, but not make a big deal of it. Almost 3 years later, a multi-billion-dollar industry and the freedom of a million Americans to openly partake in its products without fear of federal prosecution hinge on the obscure budget clause. But now Congress may throw it overboard amid pressure from Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, who views marijuana as a dangerous menace. What's become known as the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment constitutes a single paragraph of the federal law. It prohibits the Justice Department from sending even a cent to prosecute medical marijuana users and sellers operating legally under state laws. Since its passage, it has largely shut down efforts by federal prosecutors or drug enforcement officials to interfere with otherwise legal sales of marijuana in 29 states and the District of Columbia that have passed legalization measures. The prospect that the ban on prosecutions could expire has spread anxiety across the marijuana industry. In California, the freedom of an attorney facing a jail time for advising a marijuana operation hangs in the balance. In Washington, a pro-marijuana GOP congressman ponders whether to use the White House access he's gained to enlist President Trump's help preserving the Cannabis Amendment. Cannabis sellers and patients wonder if federal raids are next. This would give Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions a blank check to go after medical marijuana. Without it, he might try, but it would be really hard for him. The first big sign of trouble for pro-marijuana advocates came in September when the House balked at preserving the amendment. GOP leaders refused to allow a vote on it in a committee chaired by Representative Pete Sessions, a Republican of Texas, who's no relation to Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, but is as fiercely anti-marijuana. The Senate has already reaffirmed its support for the provisions in an affront to its former colleague, the Sessions who runs the Justice Department. But both houses agree and must agree for the measure to remain in effect. The hedging in the House followed an aggressive lobbying campaign by Attorney General Sessions, who complained in writing to lawmakers that the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment was hampering law enforcement and endangering the public. The uncertain fate of the cannabis provision has created tension among Republicans, dozens of whom have cast votes to prevent the federal government from a crackdown on medical marijuana. Many would like to do so again. The most vocal is Orange County, California Representative Dana Rohrabacher of Costa Mesa, the amendment's namesake, who along with other congressional representatives got the ban into the federal statute in 2014 after trying for a decade. That victory wasn't long ago, but came during a very different time. The Obama administration had just pledged to let states go their own way on medical and recreational cannabis. The measure reflected a Congress subtly backing off its war on marijuana and nudging the Justice Department to do likewise. After it passed, Congressman Rohrabacher began calling judges to insist they dismiss cases. Rohrabacher said, quote, "I told one of them, if you have in your courtroom a federal prosecutor who's now trying to convict someone for possession of medical marijuana, there's only one criminal in your courtroom, and that is the prosecutor," end quote. Rohrabacher said. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco last year put the Department of Justice on notice that as long as the prosecution ban is in place, charges filed against defendants operating legally under state law won't fly, at least in California and the 8 other western states under the appeals court's jurisdiction, all but one of which have legalized marijuana in whole or in part. Our next story is from France. Cannabis may be protective against liver disease in subjects infected with both the hepatitis C virus and the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV or AIDS, according to data published online ahead of print in the Journal of Viral Hepatitis. French investigators assessed the relationship between cannabis use and the prevalence of steatosis, fatty liver disease, in a cohort of 838 HIV co-infected subjects. They reported, quote, daily cannabis use was independently associated with the reduced prevalence of steatosis, end quote, after adjusting for potential co-founders. They continued, quote, daily cannabis use may be a protective factor against steatosis in HIV co-infected patients, end quote. A 2013 study previously reported that cannabis exposure was not associated with liver disease progression in HIV co-infected patients. A 2015 study reported that HIV patients who used cannabis were less likely to suffer from insulin resistance as compared to non-users. Subjects diagnosed with HIV or hepatitis C frequently report using cannabis to treat the disease's symptoms as well as the side effects associated with conventional drug therapies, such as nausea and appetite loss. Separate data published earlier this year in the journal PLOS ONE reported that subjects who consume cannabis are significantly less likely to suffer from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease as compared to those who do not. This study, Daily Cannabis and Reduced Risk of Steatosis in Human Immunodeficiency Virus and Hepatitis C Virus Co-Infected Patients, appears in the Journal of Viral Hepatitis. That is the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. We don't have our musical accompaniment tonight, but right next to me, Mr. Eric Llewellyn looks set to go. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Hey, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Our phone lines are open as well, so if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number that just popped up on your screen there. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. And we are taking your phone calls. If you're watching tonight on Friday the 13th of October 2017, you can call in. If you're not watching on Friday the 13th of October, you're watching a repeat. You can't call in. But you can keep watching. So Eric, I saw you put out a call for questions and things, and most of the ones I saw pop up had to do with cultivation issues here in Oregon right now.
A lot of growing worms. People are having a problem with worms and want to know the correct way to dry their flowers and wanted your insight because they know you have a brain to pick.
Okay, well, worms. So there are a variety of different worms out there. Probably the most invasive are these brown worms that get into your cannabis, and what I found is it's best to treat your plants way before they're flowering. So if you got them now, all you can really do is cut them out and excise it like a tumor. You just want to cut that out and throw it away. And I recommend hanging your cannabis for a week to 2 weeks and letting it dry until the little stems that the buds are on will snap. And if they're still bending, then it's still moist. Even though the flower might look like it's dried out, if there's any moisture left in the stem and you close that inside a container, that water is going to work its way out, and in an hour or two your flowers will look like they're wet again. So the best test is when you have a stem like this one here, only a lot smaller, and you just snap it. And if it snaps in two, it's probably just a little bit too dry. If it snaps and there's a little hemp bast fiber there connecting it, that's perfect. If it doesn't snap, it just bends, it's not dry enough yet. So that's the general rule in terms of making sure your cannabis is properly dried. There are a lot of biological controls. You know, we ran a segment 2 weeks ago from Jorge Cervantes that talked about the various biological controls from one of the board members of the Oregon Sun-Grown Cannabis Association. If you want more information, those biological controls are basically funguses and microscopic bugs that attack the bugs. It doesn't poison you or I, but it attacks the bugs. And so there are a lot of different ones out there, and it's best to cycle through them and use different ones instead of sticking to one and just trying that, because it might cause the bugs to build up immunity to that.
Nice. Okay. Very helpful. Yeah.
So how have you been this past week?
Been good. Been visiting a few gardens that people got going on, seeing what they've been working on. It's Croptober, so everybody's got their little grows coming out.
Or not so little.
Or yeah, not so little. Nice outdoors, you know, spreading big leaves and enjoying the wonders of Oregon.
Great.
How have you been?
Pretty good. Still fighting that legal battle, trying to get patients in. If you or someone out there you know is looking for a doctor who can help them get a medical marijuana permit, we have a referral service, and you can call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. There are some big changes, though. I'm sure you got that letter dated August 31st from the Oregon medical marijuana program about changes in the program as mandated by the legislature. And they are dramatically changing the law where all gardens have to start opting into the METRC, the metric system, where you have a tag on each plant. You pay $450 a year to the state, and then you report each and every plant and scan it in there using this electronic system. It's basically gone also where they're throwing out all the grandfathered garden exceptions as well. And so they basically said, unless you're growing for 2 patients or less, 12 plants or less, then you have to pay total fees to the state of $3,000 to $5,000 to be a medical marijuana grower.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I can't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, you know, we voted on a law, Measure 91. Of course, I had another better plan in 2014 that was sidetracked, and the folks from the Drug Policy Alliance came in with Measure 91, and I supported it. It said that patients were protected and that there would be no changes to the medical marijuana law. But for the first time ever, the legislature immediately, based on law enforcement's lobbying, changed that. And so we might have to circulate another initiative to protect the medical marijuana system or reestablish it, because it's clear that these legislative actions have curtailed the program and are aimed to kill it. So people like you and many others that need medical marijuana aren't going to be able to find growers. That's what I hear, is that all the growers are dropping all their patients, and
it's an
it's
everyday
very
thing. Somebody's coming running. Do you know of any growers? Any growers? Any growers? Yeah, they're.
So again, if you have questions for us tonight, you can call us at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. We are taking your phone calls. Also, we're streaming live on Facebook at facebook.com/restorehemp. That's facebook.com/restorehemp. We have a little video we're going to run right now about the cannabis and wine industry, and we'll be back in about 3.5 minutes. I think we're in.
Back now at 7:42 with our special series, Red, White, and Green, How America is Going to Pot.
California became the first state to legalize medical marijuana. That was back in 1996. And in a few months, recreational use will be legal there as well. And that's got a lot of people wondering how the state's wine country will be impacted. Here's NBC's Joe Fryer.
The vineyards roll for miles along the rustic roads of Sonoma County. California's famous reds and whites, the fruit heavy on the vine in late summer.
This is the Skittles Blue Dream.
But these days, another crop, cannabis, is also ready for harvest just down the road.
Wine and cannabis go well together, and they have for a long time.
And just as wineries advertise their tours and tasting rooms, marijuana entrepreneurs are looking to do the same.
Cannabis tours have definitely been happening somewhat underground for years, and now we're looking at and we're exploring how can cannabis tourism responsibly integrate into Sonoma County's culture.
Erin Gore is married to a winemaker, but her business is pot, organic edibles designed for a calming high. She's optimistic that wine and weed can appeal to the same clientele.
From a marketing opportunity and consumer point of view, we see them being very collaborative.
It's a beautiful sativa.
Look at this one.
Yeah, it's got some great piney scents to it. The nose is amazing on it.
Just like wine lovers want to know how their favorite Pinot Noirs are made,
We're going to see the same phenomena in cannabis, where people are going to know where Fiddler's Greens are farmed or know the Garden Society farms in Mendocino.
in Northern California, private wine and weed dinners have become popular, but some winemakers see potential areas of conflict.
I see cannabis production as a direct competitor for workers.
Vineyard owner Kathleen Inman says she already has trouble finding enough pickers to harvest her grapes. She supports legalized marijuana, but says it's going to make the problem even worse.
We also have competition for consumer dollars, particularly at the mid-range and lower range.
Inman says she knows some winemakers who might be open to the idea of planting cannabis, but federal alcohol laws stand in the way.
Because we have federal permits and because it's a class 1 drug, it means if you were to be prosecuted for growing marijuana, you could risk losing your winery permit.
So, will a green gold rush bring scores of new growers to the region? Not so fast, say elected officials and experts. Cannabis growers will have to meet a complicated set of standards on zoning, energy, and pesticide use.
Cannabis is going to be the most highly regulated agricultural commodity in the state of California.
Meaning that even though a glass of wine and a joint might seem like a natural pairing to some, for the next few years at least, these two cash crops will have to grow apart.
I think there's going to be more open grows and more beautiful farms like we see here, but I also think there's still going to be a dominance of the wine industry.
For Today, Joe Fryer, NBC News.
All right, there's a segment from the situation down in California. So those fires down there have wiped out a lot of the growers and the vineyards both. So it's affecting both of them, just like it affected us here in Oregon. This has been, even though we had such a wet winter last year, it's been very, very dry since June, which has caused fires from Canada and Montana through Oregon, Washington, down throughout the state of California. And Northern California is getting hit pretty hard right now because of the
like
quick
pulling
winds.
all from us down there.
Yeah. It's we've gotten some rain that's kind of stopped the fires, and so at least around here, or helped stop them. Even though I understand the Eagle Creek fire still burns just a little bit up in the mountains, not near the roads again.
Not like it was, yeah.
We had Interstate 84 closed for about 3 weeks there. I've never seen that before.
It was pretty bad everywhere. The smoke was bad. It was taken out everywhere.
Yeah, I heard that the air pollution with those smokes in California right now is as bad as China is at its worst.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of fires, we have our hemp flame of freedom here. This is a hemp oil flame with a hemp wick, and this is some hemp oil. This is the main reason that marijuana has been criminalized. I've been saying for 20 years on this show that it's the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches who have brought us marijuana prohibition based on lies and racism. And now a petrochemical industry company called Adira Energy from Israel and Canada has come in and attacked our business, a business that I created from nothing up to a multi-million-dollar annual business helping tens of thousands of patients a year, and a total of about 250,000 Americans all across the United States get their medical marijuana permits. And so we have our main banner now turned around because they have overwhelmed us. We, even though we spent $130,000 on attorneys, they've spent many times that. And because we don't have any attorneys now, we haven't had an attorney on this case. They've been winning in court against us. I actually had to write my own response to their lawsuit, and they went in and got it thrown out somehow. And it's just injustice at its worst. And so if you'd like more information about this takeover, if you've come in through our clinics, whether they be the THCF medical clinics or the Empower Healthcare clinics, our clinic on 18th, or any of the others around the state, to find out how they have stolen your records and taken them to a company in Canada called Ample Organics, a marijuana industry company, then give us a call at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. If you're looking for a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana recommendation, we have a referral service. If you have any of these conditions or others that you think might qualify for medical marijuana and you're interested in trying that, give us a call again at 503-235-4606. Okay, Eric, you got something to say?
Yeah. How about you tell us about your trips you've been on? You've been going to some festivals and
a couple weeks ago, I went to the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest. That's the oldest pro-marijuana event still going on in the country. It's in Madison, Wisconsin. I actually first spoke in front of a large group of people from the stage there back in 1989. And they had their 47th annual event, and I took a lot of pictures of that. You can see some of those pictures on my Instagram account or on my Facebook account. Just look up Instagram.com or Facebook.com/DPaulStanford. That's Instagram.com or Facebook.com and DPaulStanford. So we have another video that's ready to roll. This is Jorge Cervantes talking about growing marijuana and light deprivation hoop houses. It's about a 2-minute video, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, this is Jorge Cervantes, and I'm at another light dep greenhouse. This thing was thrown up real quickly, and it's incredibly productive. Let's take a closer look. Now look at this. We've got this landscape cloth or ground cover stuff, weed barrier, and a hardware cloth bed. We've got mixed soil here. Down in here, very dense planting, 3 across, and we've got an entire bed and greenhouse full of Larry OG. And this greenhouse, as you can see, is a light dep greenhouse. And these tarps right here, this tarp and this tarp are thrown over every night at 5:30. And then after that, it's taken off about 10:30 at night. That way the plants will be able to breathe all night. That's really a good deal. Now they flipped these or started giving them 12 hours of darkness 3 weeks ago. You can get a good idea of how much they'll grow. But this is going to be just totally packed with buds. And they're able to get away with this, pack it in here so tight because there's not really much room. Is because most of the time it's open. It's only closed for a short time. So anyway, 3 weeks, let's see, another 5 weeks, and this baby's going to be ready to harvest. It's Jorge Cervantes signing off.
Okay, we want to thank Jorge Cervantes for allowing us to use his videos, and you can find out more about his site at growingmarijuana.com or marijuana growing, that's it, marijuanagrowing.com. So what else is up with you, Eric?
Enjoying Oregon. Always going back to the harvest time of year. It's a busy time for a lot of people, busy time for me. We help make sure people get their plants taken in and pulled down in time. We have a few people that run a clip crew.
A lot of people are trimming or trying to get trimming done.
It's a mad time of year. A lot of people are restless night's sleep, making sure their harvests are safe. There's a lot to be done this time of year.
I have a question from our YouTube stream. That's at, not YouTube, but Facebook. I got a little confused here. Facebook.com/RestoreHemp. Says, if you want to grow social cannabis indoors, what is the best lighting and fans? Well, I prefer metal halide lights for vegetative growth, and sodium bulb lights for flowering. Those are high intensity discharge, or HID units. They're not cheap and they use a lot of electricity. They can cost anywhere from $25 to $30 a month during the flowering season, and $50 a month for each 1,000-watt light for the vegetative cycle. But those are the best and most intense lights. In terms of fans, you want to keep the air moving constantly, as long as your leaves are jiggling around a little bit. You know, leaves breathe through the stoma in their leaves on their undersurface, and so the air has to go by and be in motion for them to be able to breathe. So you want to have, any fan will work. An oscillating fan is often the best because it's not just set right in one place, it's moving around back and forth. So I recommend oscillating fans and keeping the air moving all around your plants, not right intensely on the plants, but moving around. That's the best thing.
Fluttering fingers. Fluttering fingers.
You mean the leaves?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So again, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-673-8579. That's the number right there on your screen. 503-673-8579. I know the phone lines are open. I just checked them. But there's a lot going on. So maybe
everybody's out there trimming.
Maybe that's it.
Their hands are sticky, can't get to their phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got any big plans coming up anytime soon in the near future?
There's an event in Medellin, Colombia that I'm going to speak at around Thanksgiving. And that's the only one that's currently on the schedule. There's another one coming up in July next year in Quebec, Canada. So I'm looking forward to that. Outside of that, that's about it. What about you?
Just not much, really. You know, just I plan my days around the show, and you know, harvests. Like I said, harvest. Helping people get their plants up and growing and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, that's good. So again, if you have a question for us, you can give us a call. Let's see if we can get another video pulled up in there and run that, because obviously we don't have a lot to say here right now. You got anything else to say? There's one.
Well, you can also put a grow room like this on the main floor of a house or in the living room, you know, if you've got a space for it. This grow room has been recently harvested, as you can see. It was a mother room, and then later a flowering room, and we got stuff all over the place. So it's a good idea to clean up afterwards, you know. But I like this room in a lot of ways because, see, this is all freestanding. It's easy to ventilate. You just ventilate out into the house, and then you ventilate from one of the windows. And, you know, you can cover up your windows, too. You can cover them up like this. I love this. This duct tape is great. You just put it up here, and it covers everything up. But it's a little conspicuous. There's blinds out there, so you really can't see right through them. So, you know, it doesn't look weird on the outside, and that's the important thing. And then, you know, another thing is I love these grow boxes, or this is actually a home box. And this is a double size, you know. 2 lights can fit in it real easily. You can grow, let's see, what is it? It's about 4 by 4, no? Or 1 meter, 1.5 meter by 1.5 meter. 1.5 meter by 3 meters is what it looks like. And you can set it up in just a few minutes. Actually, the home box has a great video on setting these things up. And they're expandable. So if you want to expand the grow room in your living room, all you got to do is add a couple of modules here. And the good thing is, when you add more modules, you'd only have to add 3 walls instead of 4. Good deal. Okay, and then another thing with when you're growing in the living room like this, I have to say, is you've got these overhead Casablanca fans, you know? And these Casablanca fans will lower the heat and everything. And when you lower the heat or you push it down a little bit, you can vent it out a lot faster. It goes out one end of the house. Now let's take another look at this grow house. Now this is real interesting because I've seen so many of these. This right here is, well, it's a freestanding frame in the room. And what it is, you can just frame it with 2x4, so you can set this up in your room and you don't screw up the walls, you don't put a big bunch of holes in anything. There's a few holes in the ceiling, but very few. It was put together real quick. One of the things I don't like about this though is there's so many turns and there's so much tubing here. I'd like to see this minimized a little bit, and then it'd be a lot more efficient. And then, well, this is classic here. This is duct tape, works for everything. And notice this is real lightweight, and they've just taken staples and duct tape and run them through the duct tape up there and stapled it right into the ceiling. So that'll make a minimal amount of damage on the ceiling. Actually, when they move, they can just rub toothpaste over that and fill it in, or you can actually put plaster and paint it up again, but a little bit of toothpaste works great. And then they just stapled it up, and there you go. And if we look over here, this is a big window, and it's just been covered up with duct tape. About 5-10 minutes to completely cover this window up. It's really, well, it's pretty common, you know, it works well. And let's see, now we've got the pots. We've got these pots here, big 15-gallon pot, 10-gallon pots over here. There's a 5-gallon pot in the corner. I like these real well. Okay, so this room has been harvested about a week ago, and it was a flower and seed production room. Okay, and as you can see, they just hang visqueen up on the wall, and it's just taped right onto the wall and put right over the carpet, framed right around the outside with this 2x4, and that keeps all the spills inside. You know, and the carpet's kind of old and everything, so they can be pretty tough on it. But still, I mean, I looked under this just recently, and none of the water made it through to the bottom if it was spilled. Of course, all of these have, notice all of these containers have saucers under them, which is a real good idea. Sometimes when you water and you have a stake like this, the water will hit the stake and run straight down. And what that does is it creates kind of like an internal waterfall next to the stake. But there's this area this big around the stake, or even bigger, that doesn't get any water at all. So there's a couple of ways you can do. You can either cultivate the soil surface or remove the stakes, which is pretty hard to do. Or you can put several different drippers in here and a tray underneath. And you put that tray underneath, the water goes down there and then it wicks back up and it fills up that really dry spot. But you got to watch just little details like that. They make so much difference. And you know, I mean, if you've got a 15-gallon pot and three of the gallons are dry, that means you paid for all that soil and you're not getting the benefit. In fact, it's a detriment to have a big dry piece of soil in there. So keep it wet.
Okay, again, that's Jorge Cervantes. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, give us a call at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. We also have a live studio audience and a microphone in the audience. If you have want to come down to our live show or our after show party, we are here most Friday nights, even though most of the month of November I think will be off. I know that the studio will be closed on the 3rd and the 11th, and I'll be out of town on the 25th, so maybe we'll have one show in the month of November, but we'll be back in December after that. But we do have a question here in the studio. Go right ahead, Ray.
Oh, Paul, thanks.
Hey.
Asking what your thoughts are in terms of levels in the dispensaries of flower material and other various forms of cannabis levels of herbicides, fungicides, that type of thing, pesticides, and other various chemicals.
You know, the laws regarding testing of pesticides and herbicides changed. I know there was a point last year in January where they didn't require total testing of all the crop, but that law was changed again. I think we've been through about 8 different changes in the marijuana system just over the past year, so it's a very difficult, highly regulated market to aim at. But they require testing of all cannabis now. They have to lay it out up to 10 pounds into a grid, and then according to a randomly generated pattern, they will pick out samples out of the 10-pound sample, and then they will test that, and then those tests come back, and if it comes back for any pesticides or anything, it can't be sold in dispensaries. So the latest law required that for that period of time when they didn't require 100% testing, they had to go back and test that again. So now that 100% of that out there is tested. And I think we have a phone call, so let's take our phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Pretty well. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I just wanted to mention the reason people might be against marijuana is because they don't think about people's tolerance. They don't want to just suck down 3 joints the first time they try it. They need to just have a puff and relax, you know? Mm-hmm. And then maybe their tolerance will get up further. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to say I'll be at your clinic when I'm due for my license, my permit.
Thank you.
And I wish you well.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, I recommend people, you know, just take a few puffs, and if that's good enough, there's no reason to increase your tolerance by using more than you need. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you're looking for a referral for a doctor to help you with medical marijuana, then you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. So we have questions about outdoor crops and mold from Mason Peterson on our Facebook page. And so, you know, with the rains coming on right now, as soon as you should probably already harvested your cannabis. It's good to have varieties that finish early. There's a new variety out there called Obama Kush, and I noticed it finished in mid-September. So that one finished very, very quickly. It's a mostly indica strain, has very fat, displays indica typical leaves, and so that's an answer to one of those questions in terms of which ones work best in this environment. Anything you want to say, Eric?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Then there's another question from Trish and Jay Cyril saying, talk about state legislators dismantling the OMMP with new regulations and amendments. So the will that 56% of the voters who voted for Measure 91, that the medical marijuana law was not going to be touched. Why did the legislatures go against the will of the people? Well, it's because police lobbyists have gone in and demanded these changes, and also other businesses that want to corner the market as much as possible. You know, it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to get your recreational gardens up and licensed and going, and they don't want to compete with anybody. They want to make sure that they can continue to sell that at an outrageous price. So that's one of the things. But we urge you to contact your state legislators. And I've been talking to fellow activist John Sajo, who's been working on marijuana reform in Oregon since the 70s, and he and I and others are talking about vetting an initiative to restore the medical marijuana program. Of course, that takes big money. You know, be able to put something like that on the ballot takes at least $500,000. So that has to be a big consideration. So things to do if you're preparing for next year's crop. Well, now is a good time to, as you harvest your plants, put organic fertilizers into your soil, things like rock phosphate, glacial dust, earthworm castings, green sand, kelp. Kelp is great for micronutrients, and alfalfa meal is another good thing to add to your soil. And mycorrhizal enzymes, these funguses that break down these nutrients and make them available to the roots of the plant. Also, if you want to plant something over the top of your soil to protect the soil, there's Dutch white clover is a plant that has a nice aroma, and it fixes nitrogen out of the air and makes it available for the plant in next year. So that's one thing to consider, is putting organic amendments and mycorrhizal enzymes in your soil, blending it, and then if you want a cover crop to protect the soil, Dutch white clover is the way to go. And when to start your seeds for indoors for the best results outdoors? Probably December or January. You definitely want to get them started no later than February, and then you put them out once May comes around. Probably it's good to wait till about the 10th or the 15th of May to make certain they don't go into the flower cycle. So that's the best thing to do. That's what I do, is I tend to grow from cuttings and make my cuttings indoors in January and February, and put out plants that are about 3 to 5 feet tall in mid to early May. And that gets big trees that are 10 to 15 feet tall. We have a phone call that's come in. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Excellent. I was just enjoying some Burmese Kush, but I was wondering, why is there no gold or red bud around?
Demand, and you know, that's a good question. It's growers aren't producing it, I guess, and demand isn't asking for it in the various stores. But you know, there are a lot of seed companies out there. You might look for those seeds. What kinds of red and gold cannabis do you like?
Well, I mean, they used to be Colombian or Panama red.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the opportunity to go to Colombia and give a talk in Medellin and Bogota and tour some fields around Cali last year. And I went to the Copa del Rey, or the Cup of Gold in Bogota. And I got to try about 25 different kinds of Colombian cannabis, including a lot of the Santa Maria reds and golds, and some of those were excellent. But you gotta go there to get them these days. Mainly we've got domestic crops in our stores here.
Right. Of course, who wants to go there? I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying the seeds that I miss them. That variety.
Well, if you miss them and you tell people, maybe we can bring them back.
Yeah. Well, anyways, thanks.
All right, thanks for calling. If you're out there and you have a question or comment, you can call that number there on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. So again, questions about growing, when to take or buy your clones. I like to take them in January, February, put them outside in May. That's the time to put those plants out. So it depends on your latitude, of course, and here in Oregon that's the best time. So best way to harvest your cannabis is to cut it and hang it upside down and give it a week or two, again paying attention to the moisture in the stem. Even if the buds look dry, if there's still moisture in the stem and your stems won't snap, they need to dry longer. So that's the thing to think about. And bud rot, ways to prevent that, is another question that Jeffrey Adams had. So The best thing to do is a lot of air movement. If you're outdoors, you might want to go out first thing in the morning in September and October and shake the dew off the plants, cover them, make sure they don't get wet and soaked in the rain. Those are definite ways to prevent that. And questions about, is growing outdoors organic better? Yes, in my opinion it is. It tastes better. You have a better product. I prefer organic all the time. You don't have to worry about the chemicals. I think it just tastes better as well. And so you definitely don't want to add any fertilizer to your crop in the last 3 weeks of flowering, because you'll give your flowers an unusual taste, and you don't want that. We have another phone call coming in. About 7.5 minutes to go. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty well. How are you?
Not bad. I just came across you guys' show, and let me say, you guys have just blown my mind with some of the knowledge you guys have.
Well, thank you. We keep trying. I've been at it since the 70s myself. So.
You guys are what make our generation great. The way you guys are just persistent about getting us knowledge. Our generation is lacking the knowledge, and people like you just coming out and talking to us.
Hey, I'm glad to do it. That's and I'll tell you, it helps to have good questions from our callers, because it keeps our show moving, keeps it fresh with some new topics to cover. But I appreciate your accolades.
No problem. My friend is growing here. He's got only 4 plants growing, but he's spraying a chemical on it. I don't know the name of it right now. I'm kind of a little high myself, but he's spraying this chemical on it. Is it bad to spray when the buds are just growing?
Yeah, you don't want to spray anything on it when the flowers are growing like that. I'm not sure exactly what he's using, so I can't address that, but I recommend you don't use anything on the plants the last 2 or 3 weeks before they're harvested. And if you're growing outdoors using the sun, you should be harvesting right about now. I haven't been checking the weather the past few days, but I would say with the rains we've been experiencing, it's time to pull those plants in, or they're going to mold even worse.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You guys are awesome. Well, I'm going to let you go just in case somebody else has some better questions than I did. Thank you guys again. You guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. I will continue. I'm going to follow and like you guys. Thank you so much for letting me talk with you.
All right. Thanks for calling. We're down to about 5.5 minutes. If you got a question in the closing minutes, you can call us at 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. We had a question from Josh McDonald about the hemp stock. Will it ever return? We don't have our hemp stock festival this year because we're in debt from last year. A lot of our funding sources were taken away, and again, we've had this Israeli-Canadian oil company, Adira Energy, that's spelled A-D-I-R-A Energy, Adira Energy. That's an Israeli-Canadian company. Based on lies, fraud, and deceit, they came in and deceived the court and took over our multi-million-dollar business helping patients with doctors. And they've won in court because they've just outpowered us. It's been a war of attrition where the lawyers have been overwhelming us. We don't even have a lawyer, even though I spent $130,000 on attorneys so far. They spent many times that, probably on the order of $1 million. I went into court just by myself, and I'm up against 3 lawyers and 3 paralegals, and just an overwhelming assault in the legal system. It's a war of attrition. As I've been advocating hemp fuel for many years, I think it's not a coincidence that an energy company, Adira Energy, has come in here to lie and steal everything from myself, my family, my friends, and associates. So for more information on that, or to find out more, or to help join in our lawsuit against these corporate raiders, give us a call at that number on your screen. It's 503-235-4606. Again, that's 503-235-4606. So, do you have anything else to say right now, Eric?
Just always, if just anybody that might want to think about cannabis for medical prospects because of a disability, it is something that can help out with. As you can tell, I am disabled. I have had muscular dystrophy. I was diagnosed at the age of 5, and I got into using cannabis around the age of 11, and I've realized it's self-medicating is a good way to go. So if you're on a bunch of pills and prescriptions, you might want to think about cannabis. It will help you.
You know, these Israeli Canadian oil company, they've come in and stolen our outdoor garden, so we don't have an outdoor garden this year. How does that affect you?
That affects me horribly, tremendously. I rely on my medicine. It helps me get out of bed.
And I've been giving you free medicine for many years now.
4, 5, 6 years almost now, and I've never had to put out a penny out of pocket. Here's a picture of you and Jorge in our garden.
Yeah, that garden has been stolen by this Israeli Canadian oil company, and
me and a lot of people depend on that garden right there.
And this year they've stolen that from you and I and all the 100 other patients that have benefited from that in the past.
Yeah, they've hurt a lot of us bad.
So we'd love you to join in this lawsuit against these folks. So just give us a call at 503-235-4606. John Cornette is out this week, so we don't have our usual musical accompaniment. We hope John is feeling a lot better. Our prayers go out to your rapid recovery out there, John and Judy. I know Judy's working hard to try to take care of you. I know he's been suffering from seizure disorder for many years, but it's gotten worse, and they put him on some new medications. But we hope to have him back here next week, or if not next week, in the very near future.
Yes.
So I want to thank you folks for watching. We're just about out of time. Anything you want to say in closing, Eric?
In closing, get your plants taken care of before it's too late.
And thanks for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Like that.
All right. Thanks for watching, and good night. Okay. Maybe we should kill those cameras.
The Academy of Our Lady of Peace and the Woodlands.
Yeah, just go to black. Okay.
Something that I'd like to relate. Home on the islands sure sounds great.